Colonel Norris was born in the United States sometime during the 1960s, putting him somewhere in his 50s during the events of Modern Warfare 2019. Now, we can assume that Norris joined the military at a very young age, specifically the Marine Corps, and spent much of his career trying to ascend their ranks. We can also assume that he may have been part of the major conflicts that were occurring during the late 1980s and the 1990s. Sometimes during the 2000s, he would become a colonel of the United States Marine Corps. He would also rule with intensity and strictness as he pushed to keep the United States safe, and he always remembered to put them first when it came to international conflicts. Sometime during 2019, Norris was approached by the CIA and a known associate, Kate Laswell. The colonel would be told about an operation in Verdansk where a dangerous chemical gas was being stored, and it was about to be moved. The gas belonged to ultranationalist General Roman Barkov, who was seen as a danger to the United States. CIA SAD operator Alex Keller would be sent to retrieve and secure the gas, and Colonel Norris would send a Marine Raider team to assist Alex.
Roger 3-1. Hitman teams are locked and loaded for assault. You are green to go.
Norris would watch over the operation from a secure location. However, the op would be considered a failure after Alex and his Marines were ambushed by an unknown group, causing Norris to get angry, and this led to an argument with Kate Laswell.
This operation is now compartmentalized.
What the hell does that mean?
Means you no longer have clearance, Colonel.
Those are my Marines. We need a QRF in there right now.
That's not advisable.
And that is not your call.
Colonel Laswell.
General, my men...
Norris, give us a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Here, Norris would feel undermined, and he would try to get his Marines some assistance and get them back to safety. The colonel would once again send his Marines on an operation with Alex Keller to secure the Wolf, who was believed to be in the Ramaza hospital. The mission would be a success, but the Wolf would later escape, and a few days later the Wolf would be captured once again, and he would finally be neutralized. Sometime later, the colonel would meet with Laswell and the general, who informs the both of them that Farah's forces will now be treated as the enemy. Laswell tries to fight it, but Norris disagrees as he is thinking about the United States' best interest, and he distrusts Farah and those associated with Urzikstan. Colonel Norris and Laswell would meet with the team and inform them of the news.
As much as we can all hear the ice in the glass, I'm afraid our toast has to wait. Hadir and his new friends are on the move.
What are they?
One step at a time.
No one said they're friends.
The general would tend to disagree.
Norris, I asked you to let me
Tell him,
handle...
Laswell. Or I will.
Command has officially redesignated Farah's forces.
You want to translate that from bullshit to English?
It means they're on the list.
What list?
Foreign terror organization list. I've ordered my Marines to treat Farah's army as hostiles.
What? They're our allies.
Yeah, not anymore.
You keep your muppets on a short string, Colonel.
Or what?
I'll fucking earn you from it.
Now, that would be the last time that we see the colonel in Modern Warfare, and I also believe that that would be the final time that he is ever even mentioned. Now, is he a super important character to the series as a whole? No, maybe not. But he could have been used as a conflict with Laswell and 141, or he could have continued to assist our common goals and introduced us to more Marines and new characters, and they could have been part of the bigger story of Modern Warfare. A lot of the complaints that I've seen in the comments is that we only use Task Force 141 in Modern Warfare, and we've basically forgotten about the Delta Squadrons or the Marine Raiders and so on. So if we would have continued to use Colonel Norris and the Marines in future installments, I think it would have been a bonus. I even saw a comment from one of our viewers that said that he thought Colonel Norris would have been great had he been used as the new General Shepard in a sense. He could have been maybe the new big bad villain or the new big bad person in control. It feels like they developed him a little bit in Modern Warfare 2019, and then the payoff that we were supposed to get at some point was gone, as we never hear from him again, and we rarely ever see the Marine Raiders after that. Jaggor was born on March 29th of 1986 inside the Soviet Socialist Republic. At the age of 18, Jaggor would join the Ukrainian Naval Infantry. He would serve there only 2 years before he was discharged. The reason behind it is not public knowledge. However, after this, Jaggor would begin to work in the private sector and build connections. Due to his connections in the naval infantry, Jaggor would be able to ship in the black market scene, and he would eventually be known as your go-to guy for illegal arms and illegal cigarettes. However, Jaggor had a code of honor, and he would be forced out of Ukraine by the Sokolov crime family, who were clients of Jaggor. However, things turned sour when he decided against brokering an illegal arms trade between the family and ultranationalist Imran Zakayev. After this, Jaggor would be recruited by the Chimera PMC and he would begin to deal exclusively for them. The relationship would be fantastic and he would become extremely close with their leader and founder, Nikolai. Due to their trust and friendship, Jaggor has become a long-term fixer and associate of Nikolai. Now, we would first meet Jaggor on October 31st of 2019, where he was part of the interrogation of Jamal the Butcher Rahar.
Where are the chemicals? Up your fucking Russian ass. You can't hurt me, you weak piece of shit. But you, Captain, oh, you can do better than that. You think I forgot your face, SAS? Huh?
Jaggor would beat the Butcher to try and extract information out of him. However, he would not be broken. Price ordered gas to go and retrieve something that belonged to the Butcher from Nikolai. And when he returned, it turned out to be the wife and the son of the known terrorist. Jaggor couldn't sit through this interrogation as he wasn't fully in agreement with it due to him having a son and wife himself. And so he excused himself before he could witness what they were about to do. After this, Jaggor would head back home, and a few months later into the new year of 2020, Chimera would be brought in to fight against Al-Qatala after their new leader launched an all-out attack in Verdansk, Kastovia. Jaggor would join Nikolai, Farah, and others in this fight. They would push Al-Qatala out, and to be honest, we haven't seen Jaggor since. And so 2020 would be the last that we see of Jaggor. It can be assumed that he hasn't been needed in Modern Warfare 2 or in Modern Warfare 3. And I guess I can understand the second game as it already had many characters in it. But I think that Jaggor would have benefited from appearing in Modern Warfare 3 alongside Nikolai. And he could have been tagging along as they did a couple of the missions that we had to do with Kate Laswell together. We could have also seen his thoughts on Makarov and Connie. And it would have gave a sense of importance to Nikolai as he doesn't just randomly appear. He also has his friends and his right-hand man that does things for him. I'm really not sure why Jaggor hasn't reappeared or why he has been forgotten. I would like to see him return in some capacity, but I really don't think so just because I think Modern Warfare or Activision just forgot about the character and they don't care. But who knows, maybe he appears in MW4. Marcus was born in Plano, Texas in 1988, and Marcus was a tough kid growing up. He spent a lot of time alone, and many would even go as far as to call him a loner. As he grew up, he became a teenager in high school, and Marcus had natural athletic abilities. He also had the size and the strength to back it up. Marcus would be recruited by the football coach and he would be a standout. However, his aggressiveness on the field caused some problems as he would end up injuring many of those on the field with him. Eventually, this led to him receiving the nickname Lurch. As senior year was coming to an end, Marcus struggled on the right path for himself, as he didn't want to work a regular day job, nor did he feel the interest to attend college. He began to look into joining the armed forces, and when he turned 18, Marcus joined the Marine Corps. He fell in love with the Marines, and boot camp was oddly satisfying for him, as he took everything they would throw at him. Eventually, Marcus would join the 2nd Marine Special Operations Battalion. Marcus was a force on the battlefield, and many of his squad mates noticed, as they were happy to have Marcus on their side rather than to be fighting against him. However, things would take a turn in 2019 when Lurch was found using excessive force against some insurgents, and this wasn't the first time he made some questionable choices. However, due to his years of service and the good that he did do inside of the Marines, Marcus would receive an honorable discharge, and he was sent home. Marcus struggled with life as a civilian as he couldn't find a new purpose. Eventually, Marcus would receive a call from an American PMC. The CEO and Commander Philip Graves would meet with him personally and offer him a job in the private sector. Graves noticed that Marcus' experience and moral flexibility made him a perfect candidate for the Shadows. Marcus jumped at the opportunity to work with Graves and the Shadow Company, and the two would bond as Graves was a former Marine himself, and Marcus would become a senior officer within the Shadow Company. On March 3rd, 2020, 4 months after the death of the Wolf Suleiman, the new Al-Qatala al-Jihadid, invaded the country of Kastovia and occupied the city of Verdansk. At this time, Al-Qatala was under the leadership of Khaled al-Assad, and he was supported by Viktor Zakayev, a known arms dealer and ultranationalist. The invasion of Verdansk led CIA handler Kate Laswell to form an alliance between Armed Assistance and Allegiance to save the city of Verdansk. The Shadow Company would be contracted for this, and Commander Graves would send a team of his men to Kastovia, and Marcus Lurch Ortega would be the one leading them while they hunted for al-Assad and Zakhaev. Marcus and the Shadows were a part of the Allegiance group, and eventually Armed Assistance would fall. And when they did, Marcus took the initiative in hunting down Zakhaev with the Shadows. Now, what happens after this is a little bit blurry. However, ultimately Al-Assad would be on the run, and Zakhaev would be presumed dead. The alliance would be over, and the Shadows would return back to the United States alongside Marcus. Marcus would continue to work and run operations for Commander Graves over the next 2 years. And when they lost the American missiles in 2022, Commander Graves personally went to resolve the problem, and Graves would leave Marcus in charge of the Shadows that were left behind back at their headquarters in Dallas, Texas. Here, Lurch would run different smaller operations until Graves' return. And as of now, the current assignments of Marcus are unknown, and he could still be working with the Shadows, but there has been next to nothing recent about him or his whereabouts. So many of us ask the question of what happened to Marcus Lurch Ortega, but in reality, maybe nothing did, and he continues to work with the Shadows in silence. Some fans believe that Marcus should have been the second in command to Graves rather than Osman Oz Ryan, and when the latter made an appearance, it would have been the perfect time to show us where Marcus had been. Now, Marcus never actually appeared in the campaign for Modern Warfare, rather only making his appearance in Warzone, so we may never see Lurch again. And I would like to point out to those who don't know that Marcus is based on Tony Sentiment, who is a retired Marine and SWAT officer in Miami, Florida. Maybe Marcus was never meant to have a long career in Call of Duty. Maybe his appearance was a cool nod to a really cool guy. Now, Jacob Thorne would be born on May 1st, 1988. Jacob knew that he always wanted to serve in the British military, as his father was a major in the Special Air Service. Eventually, Jacob would join the Royal Air Force when he enlisted at the age of 18. And 5 years later, Jacob would be ready for the next step. And so he would enter and pass the Special Air Service selection at 23, honoring his family and achieving a lifelong dream. Jacob Thorne would serve under Captain John Price for about 3 years. During his time in Captain Price's unit, Jacob would be deployed and operate in Iraq, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and Kastovia, proving more than capable, and was quickly becoming one of the most skilled members of the team.
Changing mags.
However, Thorne and Captain Price would often clash. They would do it on more than one occasion, which would lead at times to a more stressful than ideal situation when they were on deployments. And Jacob wrestled with the moral dilemmas that they faced when combating the enemy. Captain Price, known for pushing the rules to the limit, even known to break them for what he calls the greater good, was something that Jacob wasn't fully on board with. This difference in opinion would lead to Jacob Thorne requesting a transfer from Captain Price's unit sometime in the early 2010s, after Jacob witnessed Captain Price acting in an unsanctioned capture and interrogation of a person of interest that was suspected of being an ultranationalist. Jacob cited in the official reports that his transfer request was due to ethical concerns. And a few years later, in 2014, Jacob would continue to climb the ranks of the Special Air Service, reaching the rank of lieutenant, and even given his own unit. He would be paired with an experienced sergeant in Charlotte Johnstone, who served in the Special Reconnaissance Regiment. The two would gel much better than his former squad leader and Captain Price. Jacob and Charlotte would form a great bond and become friends during their service together. And in 2018, Lieutenant Thorne would be picked by the Director of Special Forces to join the Coalition, which was a multinational alliance made up of operators from the elements of the United States military and CIA Special Activities Division, as well as operators from numerous NATO counter-terrorism units. Jacob's old squad leader, Captain Price, would also be a part of the coalition, but this didn't seem to faze Lieutenant Jacob at all. Now, Jacob would be a part of Operation Iron Canopy in June of 2018, whose goal was to capture Jackal's commander, Victor Zane Makito. However, the op would be unsuccessful, with multiple reports suggesting that Jacob had encountered Zane but failed to apprehend him. However, Jacob would deny these claims. Later in 2020, Jacob and his unit would be a part of the deployment in Brindance to assist in stopping Khaled al-Assad. Now, as far as information goes, valuable information, that's all that we have on Jacob Thorne. However, it would appear that he still remains active among the Special Air Service, and with over 10 years of service since he last was in a unit under Captain Price, it could be the perfect time for them to maybe bring the character back and have him work with Price and Task Force 141. I think the dynamic could be really interesting, to have someone oppose some of the views that Captain Price has and maybe push him to do different things. I think that would be something really cool to see, and maybe something that is needed in the team or in the task force that is made up of Captain Price, Ghost, and Gas. I would love to see this character come back, explore some of that history with Price, see where he is at now, see if Price respects him more, see if maybe Thorne has a bone to pick. I don't know. I think it could just be something really cool. to bring back a character from Modern Warfare 2019 and insert him into the campaign. We never saw Lieutenant Thorne in the campaign. We never saw that, but that could be something cool, something to be explored. And now that we need new characters in Modern Warfare 4 and we need new characters to appear in the game, why not pull from the pool of a lot of good characters that you already have and you already introduced in prior Call of Duties, even if it wasn't multiplayer? Why not promote him to the campaign and use him? I also wanted to share that I have my store up and running on Spreadshop where you guys can get your Team Graves shirt or the Call of Duty campaign guys shirt. There's a bunch of stuff there that you can go check out. If anything you want to buy, like a hat or a coffee cup, you can do that. It'll support me. If not, don't worry about it. Something else that I do want to mention, we have our memberships open if you want to subscribe to the membership for like $1.99 or something like that. Check those stuff out. Just wanted to put it out there. Thank you so much for everything, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.